Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time to look at the week ahead. I'm a day late, maybe $1 short, but we're going to look from Sunday, the 13th, which was yesterday, until Saturday. I think that's the 17th. So let's take a look and see what's going on this week. This week really does have a sense of that we're over some sort of hump. And let me do this. Let me do this before I start talking, because I can't do two things at once. Okay, so we're looking at week 3, November 13th to the 19th. And I'm calling this the week of healing. Maybe that's optimistic, or maybe it's true. But every week can be a week of healing. But this week we feel maybe a release of some of the tension that's been has built up. And last week was a very tension-filled week, not only because we had an election and we had an eclipse, but there were some challenging aspects as well. And we have challenging aspects this week as well, but there is this sense of having maybe climbed a very high mountain, and now we're on the other side. So now it's about walking down the other side of the mountain, which can also be treacherous, as anybody who's climbed up a mountain and then gotten up there and said, how the hell am I going to get down, knows. But let's take a look and see what's going on. We'll start with Sunday, even though Sunday was yesterday. We had Venus make a waning sextile to Pluto. Sextiles are mentally stimulating aspects. Venus is the planet of values, what's important to us. It's also the planet associated with the feminine, and Venus has had quite a struggle this year, starting the year in a retrograde motion, the North Node starting its journey through Taurus. And Venus being the ruling planet of that. So not only did Venus have to lead the way, but she started the year with sort of moving backwards and interacting with Pluto. Then she interacted with Mars. As we know, the beginning of this year was very treacherous, not just for Venus, but for many of us, especially if you happen to live in a place like the Ukraine. But we're on the other side of this now. Pluto waning sextile brings a depth of understanding. Sextiles are mentally stimulating aspects. Pluto allows us to go very deep. I have here a deep understanding of what is important to us, and I think certainly here in the United States, we've made that perfectly clear through our votes. We also, on the same day, yesterday, we had a Mercury making a waxing in conjunct to Mars. Excuse me. Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Gemini. Mars, of course, is now retrograde. It went retrograde at the end of October. It is at retrograde into the 19th. Is it the 12th of the 12th of January. So it is moving backwards, going over areas of the chart that it had previously journeyed through. In conjuncts, I have here irritation around getting your words and actions in alignment. It's difficult to do that. However, Mercury in Scorpio is a Mars ruled sign. Mars in Gemini is a Mercury ruled sign. So they are in mutual reception. And while in conjuncts are difficult aspects and irritating, and you never quite feel like you make it, the fact that they're in mutual reception takes a little bit of the sting out of that. Today, Monday the 14th, we have Mercury making a waning sextile to Pluto. Venus and Mercury are moving together right now. And so whatever happens to one will soon after happen to the other. These waxing waning sextiles again are 300-degree aspects, and it's about moving in the direction of more progressiveness, also moving in the direction of more Aquarian humanitarian ideals, seeing ourselves as part of a greater whole, and what do we need to do to make things better. That's really what that sextile asks us to do. Mercury and Pluto. Mercury is our mind, Pluto is depth, and so we can even almost be obsessive to get down to the bottom line with this aspect. So this is a good day to like really do some deep research, or if you have a pile of papers that you need to go through, this is the day to do it, because you have the mental strength and stamina to do what needs to be done today. This can also give us a deep understanding of our desires. And then also today, we have the sun make a waning trine to Neptune. The sun-Neptune trine is a flow of energy. Neptune is diffuse, but it can also be ideal and spiritual. It's like a spa day, really, if you wanted to do it. Free flow of energy, of healing energy based on understanding. On that trine is a trine of understanding. On Tuesday, November 15th, I believe. Yeah. Okay. We have Venus making a trine to Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter are considered benefic planets. Trines bring flow. Venus at this point is in Scorpio, and Jupiter is in Pisces. Jupiter in Pisces loves being in Pisces. Venus in Scorpio, maybe a little bit less so, but Venus can do it. And this is one of those, again, Sagittarius trines that we have. And so there is a certain amount of understanding. There's a certain amount of social rewards here. I have here a free flow of energy, the energy of expansion, of understanding of the feminine, So we can have some pretty good discussions and back and forth around the value of the feminine, or the power of the feminine, or the needs of the feminine. And we certainly saw that in our elections. And then, of course, you can see that in places like Iran, where the women are rising up. So it's not just here. It's not just here. We also have the sun making a waning in conjunct to Mars. I have here repudiation of force, elimination of action taken, and social backlash. So we also on Tuesday may have some information coming out, illuminations around actions taken, and then what we need to do because of those actions. So I think that some things are going to come out that we kind of maybe suspected were happening, but we actually have the proof, I guess, that they're happening. Wednesday, November 16th, we have Venus ingress into Sag. So Venus is moving out of Scorpio, moves into Sag. Venus in Sag changes her outfit. Venus in Scorpio, I don't know, maybe she was wearing, what a dominatrix, one of those dominatrix, like rubber suits. She could have been doing that. She could have been a ninja. She could have been doing her ninja thing, wearing all black, sneaking around, looking, and now she's in Sag, so she puts on her hiking boots. She's moved out of the underworld that is Scorpio, and now she's looking for meaning. And so while Sagittarius is a much more optimistic sign, it is one in which those things that are Sagittarian, including freedom, are very important to you. And so a need to be free, a need to be yourself, a need to be authentic to who you are within your relationships come up with Venus and Sag. We also have a last quarter moon in Leo on Wednesday. This is the last quarter crisis in consciousness moon that is part of the lunation cycle that began with that new moon in Scorpio. So we're still in that eclipse energy. Last quarter squares are reorientation of power, becoming an authority in your own life, trusting your own sort of instincts, at the same time knowing that you can't do it all by yourself either, and that you must enter into social relationships with others who have common goals. So there's that. And then we have Mercury making a waning trine to Jupiter in Scorpio Pisces. This is a free flow of energy. It's also a lot of water because we have Jupiter, we have Mercury in Scorpio, we have Jupiter in Pisces, and we also have Neptune in Pisces, which is, although not exactly, not too close to Jupiter, close enough to be considered conjunct, and that can create a lot of water. And I have here big communications and deluge. So if you're in low-lying areas, be aware that storms can create some issues this week because of what's happening in the sky. All right, let's see what's next here. Just go to the next one. Thursday, the 17th, we have Mercury ingress. Hold on. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. I just tried to move something and moved it along. Mercury ingress in Sag. Remember I said that Venus and Mercury are moving together. In fact, next week they come together in Sagittarius in a conjunction that's heart and mind together. Then we have a Sagittarius, then Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, moves direct, and then we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So that's going to be an exciting week of new beginnings. But now we have Mercury moving into Sag, and just like Venus and Sag, Mercury and Sag is going to value understanding. It's going to value Venus and Mercury and Sag wants to get to the truth, of the situation. And I have here the mind ponders the truth. Friday, November 18th, we have the sun making a waning sextile to Pluto. Now the sun, we had Venus making a waning sextile, then we had Mercury, and now we have the sun. Everything that was in Scorpio comes along and makes the sextile to Pluto. Pluto, of course, the planet of power in Capricorn. This is sort of all the lessons learned through these synodic cycles with the sun and Pluto and Venus and Pluto and Mercury and Pluto. Pluto imbues Pluto in the sign that it is now, in the degrees that it is now, is the world's soul. So it's pointing in the direction of our collective evolution. The Pluto in your chart will point in the direction of your personal evolution. But now with Pluto and Capricorn, we're being asked to be responsible for ourselves, be responsible for our choices, be a responsible citizen, and take responsibility for yourself. Stop the blame game, really, and start to put on your big boy and big girl pants and take control of your life. Don't leave it up to somebody else. And yet know that, that can only take you so far until you align with other people of like mind, and then things can happen. Of course, Pluto is going into Aquarius, and we're going to find that out soon enough, in and out between Aquarius and Capricorn over the next 2 years. So we're going to have a lot of back and forth between the more collective side of things and the more controlled side of things. But we'll be here together to do that, hopefully, God willing, God is willing, right? On Saturday, the 19th, the sun makes a waning sextile to the moon. That's always nice. This is that sextile energy that's been going on with the sun and Mercury and Venus and Pluto, but this is the sun and the moon. And so this is a time when we sort of see that lunation cycle again that began with that new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio back couple weeks ago, right? Last month. Okay. And then the last aspect I want to talk about, well, actually, no, there's two. On Saturday, we have Mars make a first quarter square to Neptune. If that sounds familiar, it's because this is the second of 3. It's a crisis in action. However, it made a conjunction. It made a square, and then Mars went retrograde. So now it's coming back to make that exact square, but it's going to move back into a crescent phase. Crescent phase from a first quarter to a crescent phase. So it's moving backwards so that it can reevaluate its next steps. How is it going to move forward? And when you're dealing with Neptune and Mars, it's very difficult to kind of see in a way what direction you're going. It's kind of like walking into the fog to a certain extent. So it takes a little bit of faith in order to do it. But this time period where we have Mars moving backwards into that crescent phase is going to be a time when we get to reevaluate the actions that we took within that first square and see maybe if we can do it better. And we'll look at the chart so you can see what I'm talking about more specifically. All right, so let's take a look at this was yesterday. Okay, the vibration of this day is a 30/3, which is the Four of Wands, which is of course a victory card, a celebration, and there is a certain amount of celebration happening. Here we have Venus making her her. Hold on a second, I gotta find my cursor. Where the hell did my cursor go? Sometimes my cursor disappears. I know what it is. I move it around too fast. Okay, here's Venus. Here's Pluto. They're making that sextile to each other. Now, at the end of last year, Venus and Pluto came together, and then she went retrograde, came together again, then she went direct, came together again, and then started to move around the circle. Right now, she's gotten to this point. She's moved 300 degrees from when she made that initial conjunction on December 11, 2021. Here we have it, just the first one, December 11, 2021. That's a 28-1 vibration. That's the Two of Wands. The second was on December 25th, 43.7 at 26 degrees of Capricorn. So at the same degree, but a different vibration. So we had the Two of Wands, and here we have the Three of Cups. And so the Two of Wands really deals with, putting yourself out there, how you want to put yourself out in the world. The Three of Cups requires you to pull in your friends to help you get there. And then on March 3rd, 3/3, which was a 3/3 portal, we had Venus come back over Pluto and then move forward, right? Move forward from there. And that was March 3rd, 2022, which was a 12/3, which is the Hanged Man. Now, after this, Venus moved on further, and she made interactions with Saturn and interactions with Mars, and so it wasn't an easy journey for Venus. Now Venus is at 27 degrees of Scorpio, and it says a military band marches noisily throughout the city streets, the aggressive glorification of cultural values. And it is a sextile of progressive change to Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn, pilgrims climbing the steps leading to a mountain shrine, the ascent of the individualized consciousness to the highest realizations reached by spiritual leaders of its culture. I think, honestly, that part of this Mars retrograde anyway, and then with women sort of taking more power within the governmental structures and the power structures. We see it in Massachusetts, we saw it in Michigan. We're seeing it all over our country as far as elected officials. And then again, we're seeing it in places that women have very little power, but they are standing up and speaking up. One of the interesting things I want to point out is that while this is sextile to each other, it is also in conjunct to Mars. So we have a yod with Mars being the point of, a yod is the fickle finger of fate, or the finger of God. And the finger of God is pointing to Mars. How do you utilize your energy? What are you saying? What are your words saying? Okay, words are very important. We tend to think that they're just words, but they create our reality. They're vibrational. And so the things that you say create the environment that you're in. And so it's very important to watch your words and only say what you want to see, right? Oh, say what matters. You know that old expression, if you can't say something good, don't say anything at all. There's some truth to that, but if you see something that needs to be spoken about, you also have to do that. You have to be responsible. Being responsible with your words doesn't mean that you stay quiet. It means that your words count and your words have weight. We also have on Sunday, we had the trine of the sun and Neptune, a free flow of healing energy based on understanding. This cycle actually began back on March 13th of 2022. That was a 22-4 vibration. The beginning of this cycle started with the Fool card. So there's some sort of leap of faith that has to happen. Of course, when you're dealing with Neptune, there's always a leap of faith of some sort. It says this occurred at 23 degrees of Pisces, a materializing medium giving a seance. This is about having to prove that you actually know what you're doing, honestly. Now we have the sun at 23 degrees of Scorpio, and of course Pisces at that 23 degrees of Scorpio. The reason that Neptune is in that same degree is because it moves so slowly, and it does go back and forth. So it tends to, when you get to this, when you get to these trines, these waning trines, these Sagittarius side trines, usually the initial, the slower moving planet, in this case Neptune, usually ends up being right around the same degree. I don't know why it happens that way. It's probably just the way the heavens are set up. So just so you know, I've noticed it a couple of times. A rabbit metamorphoses into a nature spirit, the raising of animal drives to a higher level. This is a sign of social rewards with that 23 degree of Pisces. So this idea of our animal nature rising up to a higher evolutionary state, we certainly are experiencing that. We are experiencing that. That's why things are changing. That's why things are changing. Okay, November 15th, we have Venus making so that's today, right? Today's the 15th. Sorry. Does she know what date is that tomorrow? No, today's the 14th. Okay, so we have Venus making a waning trine to Jupiter, free flow of energy of expansion and understanding of the feminine. As I said, this cycle began on April 30th at 28 degrees of Pisces. Incidentally, the 40/4 is a Pisces vibration. It is the Page of Cups. A fertile garden under a full moon reveals a variety of full-grown vegetables, the full satisfaction of the individual's basic needs. That was the promise of this conjunction. Venus is now at 29 degrees of Scorpio. It says an Indian squaw pleading to the chief for the lives of her children, love as a principle of redemption. Trine Jupiter at 29 degrees of Pisces, light breaking into many colors through a prism, the analytical power of the mind necessary for the formulation of life processes and their many aspects. These are very beautiful aspects, and we can see the feminine all over these symbols, even though these symbols are the symbols that sit there, right? It's not necessarily always associated with Venus, but at this point in our evolution, it's associated with Venus. And we have beautiful Venus coming out of her shell. And we have, here's Jupiter, here's Venus, here's this beautiful trine. See, we do have Neptune very close. We also have, you can see Mercury and Venus moving together, and the sun not far behind. Okay. All right. So we see this energy flowing with this energy. And then on the other, up here, we have Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. Black Moon Lilith is where we're willing to go to extremes. And in Cancer, we're willing to go in extremes for our family, for our country, for the love of those, for those who we want to protect. So there is a certain amount of wanting to protect those that we love. On the 16th, we have Venus move into Sag, and I put this picture because this is a beautiful Venus in Sag. She's a rock climber. She's climbing up the rocks. You don't have to climb up the side of the rocks if you have Venus in Sag, but chances of you having hiking boots and a little stav and some nice maybe Gore-Tex. I don't know, do people still wear that? Clothes for when the weather changes as you hike the side of the mountain to get perspective. And we can see here Venus and Sag. And of course, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and we have Jupiter here at that 29th degree. So the as As Venus moves into Sagittarius and then Mercury moves into Sagittarius, it's disposited by that Jupiter. And just to go back at that 29th degree of, oh, sorry, wrong direction. And the 29th degree of Jupiter, light breaking into many colors through a prism. You know, white light looks white, but when you put the prism, you see that there are many colors within the white. And so there are many differences and many nuances within the unity that we experience. That's why everything, all of us have to be included in the unity. It's not just one sort of person, one kind of party, or one gender, certainly. On the 16th, we have Mercury make a waning trine. Here's that trine again. We can see that all of these planets here are coming, you know, first they all trined Neptune. Now they're all trining Jupiter. This is healing. This is healing. This is healing understanding. A free flow of energy, lots of water, big communications, and deluge. Deluge. This is United States. For the United States, because I did it to Washington, D.C. See, it's done to Washington. And so this can also be help. The 10th house to the second house, helping people with their resources, this is a trine of social rewards and brings a flow of information, much of which was brought out into the open during the 6-week-long Mercury-Jupiter opposition. There was an opposition between Mercury and Jupiter that would normally only like be in influence a couple of days, but because Mercury was retrograde and Jupiter was retrograde, it worked out that those two opposition was in the sky for about 6 weeks. During that time, a lot of information came out. A lot of stuff with January 6th came out. A lot of stuff around Trump came out here in the United States. But all this information, it was like the book that had been closed the whole time was finally open, and we got to read the pages. And now we have the understanding and the distribution of that information. This is about these trines are called disseminating trines, and so they're disseminating something. And with Mercury, they're the disseminating information in Scorpio that was hidden, for Jupiter and Pisces, for all to see, and for healing. The truth is coming out, folks. The truth is coming out, and it's been there, and we knew it, but until it comes out, it's like it's not real almost, right? Okay, so this initial conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter began on March 21st at 19 degrees of Pisces, a master instructing his disciples. The transfer of power and knowledge, which keeps the original spiritual and creative impulse of the cycle active and undeviated. Okay. On the 17th, we have Mercury move into Sag. I don't have a picture of the girl running up the cliff. But I have here the mind ponders the truth. Sagittarius is all about the truth, actually. 1 degree of Sagittarius, where Mercury moved into, of course, we could apply this to Venus, right? Because Venus moved into that 1st degree. Retired Army veterans gather to reawaken old memories. The will to reaffirm the value of the struggle upon which civilization and group achievements are founded. This is remembering all the sacrifices that people have made in the past for us to have the freedom that we have now. And I'm happy to say that we weren't willing to throw that all away. And I never really thought we would, but if you listen to the media, you probably needed some of those drugs that they advertised. Remember, the advertisers on these media stations hold a lot of power because they're paying these people. They're supporting them, and a lot of them are anti-anxiety pills. So the media does like to make us anxious. So you have to be very discerning about what you let into your bubble without living in your own little world and being unaware of what's happening. There's a balance between knowing what's happening and not allowing it to take you over. It's about being in the world and not being in the world, but not of the world in a way. So, and then of course the ruler of Sag is at that 29th degree of Pisces. Light breaks into many colors through a prism. So, and we can see here, here's Mercury and Venus moving together. Next week, they're going to make a conjunction. On the 18th, which is Friday, we have the sun making a waxing sextile to Pluto. This is part of all those planets moving through the end of Scorpio and coming to the sextile with Pluto, an increased need to succeed. Says you will feel more determined and purposeful than usual to achieve your goals. Any obsessive or compulsive tendencies you have can be harnessed to get difficult tasks done. This especially applies to anything that has broken down or is no longer helpful in your life, from a messy room to a bad habit. So this is like supercharged for you to get through the crap you have to get through so you can start new. I think when the new year rolls around. So there's some cleaning up to do. There's certainly a lot of understanding to do, and a lot of lessons that have been learned that need to be realized, actuated, and move on from, right? And then this one, the Mars square to Neptune. So here we have Mars here at 23 degrees of Gemini. We have Neptune here at 23 degrees of Pisces. This is the second of three exact first quarter squares between Mars and Neptune. Crisis in action. Mars is moving retrograde, reevaluation of actions, going back to the drawing board. So the first time we had this square was the 12th of October. October was a very revelatory time, if you remember. August, September, October, very revelatory. And then in November, the choice was made. And now we're on the other side of that choice, right? That was a 28-1 vibration. The square actually happened at 24 Gemini Pisces. The second one here, 11, 19, 22. This happens to be a 36-9. This is the 10 of Wands. So we have the 2 of Wands and the 10 of Wands. And then the last quarter crisis, first quarter square crisis in action occurs on the 14th of March 2023. It is a 24-6 vibration, which is the Queen of Wands, and it occurs at 26 Gemini Pisces. This is, and I put this picture here because it's like marching into the fog. You're geared up. You're geared up. You know, maybe it's not going to be pleasant, but you're not sure. But it takes a certain amount of faith to sort of walk this path. So interesting times, yes. All right. I think there's one more aspect, and I didn't bring it up before. Let me go back and just read it to you that I want to point out. We also have on Saturday, Sun sesquiquadrate to Chiron. This can create a healing crisis, but Chiron is also the energy. It's the crisis itself, and it's the energy that can heal the crisis. And so we're getting to see where the issues are, and it's up to us to do something to make it better, to heal it, to move through it, to understand it. And because nothing happens that, honestly, that if it's happening, it's because it needs to happen to a certain extent, and we need to learn what we need to learn from it instead of rehashing and going over and doing the same things over and over again. What is that? Doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So we're gonna put the insanity on the back burner or off the stove completely and start to move in a more positive, life affirming, let's get the work done that needs to be done. There's so much that needs to be done, but we had to get over this hump. And so now the work really starts, but it is going to be joyful work because it's going to make everybody's life better and we'll have better relationship with the earth. Now, is that going to happen miraculously all at once? No, no, but that's the direction we need to go to. And I think we realize it. So thank goodness light shines on Marblehead, as they say here in Massachusetts. Have yourself a wonderful week. Like and subscribe. I hope this is helpful for you. I'll see you next week for the week ahead. We're going to be doing the new moon on that one. And we'll also have a new moon shadows with Ona that week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I love you guys. Take care and namaste.